Hi, fourth grade. Great to have you back again. You remember when we left, Matt had made himself a bow and arrow with the help of Etienne, of course. I think Matt could have done it on his own, but it wouldn't have been nearly as good as when Etienne helped him and showed him the correct branches to use, the correct kind of wood to use for the bow and arrows. Just Etienne knows his way around a forest, that's for sure, and has really helped Matt out. Now, I don't know if Matt has been teaching Etienne too much recently. They haven't talked about their lessons really in the last couple of chapters. So what do you think is going to happen in chapter 13? Have you been making your predictions? Now, don't cheat. Don't make a prediction like if you've already started reading it or something. And I've told you that's okay. You can read it as long as you come back and follow with me. It's fine with me for you to go ahead and read ahead. Don't tell anybody though what happens. And don't make predictions if you know what's going to happen in chapter 13. That's no fun. We've got two vocab words. We have indignant and scorn. Indignant, you're kind of upset about something. Usually, like maybe you feel like you've been treated unfairly. And scorn is just if you're angry or just kind of angry about something. Okay, so those two words are going to pop up. We're going to be reading chapters 13 and 14 today. Okay, so get yourself comfy. I hope everybody's teeth are brushed, hair's brushed. You're ready for your day. It just kind of puts you in a like, okay, I'm at school frame of mind if you get yourself ready. If you need to go throw your uniform on, go do that. If you need, if you're having trouble getting in school mode, you might have to put your uniform on. I don't know. Okay, chapter 13. Wherever he went now, Matt watched for Indian signs. Remember how Etienne had shown him how to look for the sign of the beaver? But that really, if you weren't, I wouldn't even think anything about that. I would just think it was a mark in the wood or whatever in the tree bark. But Etienne showed Matt what to look for. Sometimes he could not be sure whether a branch had broken in the wind or whether an animal had scratched a queer-shaped mark on a tree trunk. Now, the word queer here means strange, okay? Not anything else. It just means strange or unusual. So he's also not only looking for the signs on the trunks of trees, but also remember Etienne showed him how to make the little marks as he was walking, like a stone against another stone or a broken tree branch, so that Matt would know how to find his way out of the forest. Once or twice, he was certain he had discovered the sign of the beaver. It was a game he played with himself. That it was not a game to Etienne, he still had to learn. He was still to learn. They were following a narrow trail one morning, this time to the east, when Etienne halted abruptly. "St!" he warned. Off in the brush, Matt heard a low, rasping breathing and a frantic scratching in the leaves. The noise stopped the moment they stood still. Moving warily, the boys came upon a fox crouched low on the ground. It did not run, but lay snarling at them, and as he came nearer, Matt saw that its foreleg was caught fast. With a long stick, Etienne pushed aside the leaves, and Matt caught the glint of metal. "White man's trap," said Etienne. "How do you know?" Matt demanded. "Indians not use iron trap bad." "You mean a white man set this trap?" Matt thought. "No, some white man pay for bad Indian to hunt for him. White man not know how to hide trap so good." Etienne showed Matt how cleverly the trap had been hidden, the leaves and earth mounded up like an animal burrow with 2 half-eaten fish heads concealed inside. So Etienne's saying the white man must have paid the Indians to set and hide the trap for them, because white men just didn't know how to do that very well. But the Indians knew how to hide that, like they buried it in the brush real well and even put 2 fish heads there so that the animal would want to eat those and thus be lured into the trap. The fox watched them, its teeth bared. The angry eyes made Matt uncomfortable. "We're in luck to find it first," he said, to cover his uneasiness. Etienne shook his head. "Not beaver hunting ground," he said. "Turtle clan hunt here." He pointed to a nearby tree. On the bark, Matt could just make out a crude scar that had a shape somewhat like a turtle. He was indignant. Well, we found it, he said. You mean you're just going to leave it here because of a mark on a tree? Beaver people not take animal on turtle land, Etienne repeated. So they're not on the beaver territory, they're in turtle territory. And this animal that's been caught in a snare is not in the beaver territory. So Etienne's like, nope, we can't touch it. This is not our land. Indians are very strict about following those rules. This is not beaver territory, it's turtle territory. We can't just let it suffer, Matt protested. Suppose no one comes here for days. Then Fox get away. How can he get away? Bite off foot. Now this is kind of gross, this part, sorry. But it's just it's the way things are. I don't know, but I know it kind of makes me icky, but. Indeed, Matt could see now that the creature had already gnawed its own flesh down to the bone. Leg mend soon, Etienne added, noting Matt's troubled face. Fox have 3 legs beside. Well, I don't like it, Matt insisted. He wondered why he minded so much. He had long ago got used to clubbing the small animals caught in his own snares. There was something about this fox that was different. Those defiant eyes showed no trace of fear. He was struck by the bravery that could inflict such pain on itself to gain freedom. Reluctantly, he followed Etienne back to the trail, leaving the miserable animal behind. So Matt feels very uneasy leaving this poor animal there to suffer. But Etienne is adamant, saying, we cannot do anything with it. This is the turtle hunting ground. It's a cruel way to trap an animal, he muttered, worse than our snares. Etienne agreed. My grandfather not allow beaver people to buy iron trap. Some Indian hunt like white man now. One time many moose and beaver, plenty for all Indians and for white man too. But white man not hunt to eat, only for skin. Him pay Indian to get skin. So Indian use white man's trap. So he's saying the white men hunt a lot of animals, but then they would only use the skin if they didn't need the meat, and therefore waste. Remember, with Indians, they didn't waste anything, and the white man would waste the meat. And so now there weren't as many animals to hunt as there should be. Matt could not find an answer. Tramping beside Etienne, he was confused and angry as well. He couldn't understand the Indian code that left an animal to suffer just because of a mark on a tree, so he doesn't get that. It was ridiculous to think that he and Etienne could ever really be friends. Sometimes he wished he could never see Etienne again. Even at the same moment, he realized that this was really not true. Even though Etienne annoyed him, Matt was constantly goaded to keep trying to win this strange boy's respect. He would lie awake in the night, staring up at the chinks of starlight in the cabin roof, and make up stories in which he himself, not Etienne, was the hero. Sometimes he imagined how Etienne would be in some terrible danger, and he, Matt, would be brave and calm and come swiftly to the rescue. He would kill a bear unaided, or a panther, or fend off a rattlesnake about to strike. Or he would learn about an enemy band of Indians sneaking through the forest to attack the place where Etienne was sleeping, and he would run through the woods and give the alarm in time. So he's fantasizing about being this hero in Etienne's eyes, but none of that's true. He's just playing in his mind, making his imagination run wild. In the morning, he laughed at himself for this childish daydreaming. There was little chance he would ever be a hero, and little chance that Etienne would ever need his help. Matt knew that the Indian boy came day after day only because his grandfather sent him. For some reason, the old man had taken pity on this helpless white boy, and at the same time, he had shrewdly grasped at the chance for his grandson to learn to read. If he suspected that Etienne had become the teacher instead, he would doubtless put a stop to the visits altogether. So if his grandfather thought Etienne wasn't coming to learn to read, his grandfather would be angry. That's the whole purpose for this, is that Etienne's learning how to read the white man's words. Matt knew he ought to feel grateful for Etienne's teaching. Every day, Etienne taught him some new thing, a plant like an onion that he could drop into his cooking pot to make his stew more tasty, a weed with a small orange flower and a milky juice in its stem that took away the sting of insect bites or poison ivy, a plant with brownish flowers and roots bearing a string of nut-like bulbs that thickened his stew and made it more nourishing. He had pointed out plants that Matt must never eat, no matter how hungry he might be. He had even shown Matt how to improvise a rain cape in a sudden rain by quickly punching a hole through the center of a wide strip of birch bark and making a cone of bark for his head. The only thing that Matt could teach him, Etienne was set against learning. For Etienne, the white man's signs on paper were piswat, which means good for nothing. Remember, that's how he referred to the dog a couple chapters ago, piswat, which means good for nothing. Nevertheless, Matt noticed that in spite of himself, Etienne had learned, excuse me, something from the white boy. He was speaking the English tongue with greater ease. So Etienne, you know what? In spite of himself, he's learning how to speak English. So that's good. It shows that he's learned something. Perhaps he was not aware himself how differently he spoke. He picked up new words readily. Sometimes he used them with that odd humor that Matt was beginning to recognize. Matt knew that Etienne was mocking when some of his own favorite expressions came solemnly out of the Indian's mouth. "Reckon so," Etienne would say. Now think of how Etienne has talked in the past. And then all of a sudden he's saying to Matt, "Reckon so," because he's picked that up from Matt. That's something Matt would say. It's funny to think of Etienne as saying that. "Rain comes soon, by golly." That's him too. Isn't that funny? Sometimes he even took a fancy to a word out of Robinson Crusoe. He especially liked the sound of verily. In return, Matt liked to try out Indian words. They were not hard to understand, but impossible to get his tongue around. He didn't think he could ever quite get them right, but he could see that though it amused Etienne when he tried, it also pleased him. "Chaqua, this morning," Matt might say, "I chased a cog." Remember what a cog is? "Out of the corn patch." Remember a cog? He wouldn't add that he had wasted an arrow and watched the porcupine waddle off unharmed. Perhaps after all, these lessons hadn't been entirely wasted. So they're learning from each other, even though Matt doesn't feel like he's really teaching Etienne anything anymore. He's learning how to talk, which is good, to talk like the white man. Not that we want to change the way Etienne talks, but that was the whole purpose of them coming together, was that he would understand white man's words. So he's learning that. And golly, as we've said before, Matt has learned endless things from Etienne. He's been very fortunate, actually, that he has taken on with Etienne. All right, let's go ahead and read chapter 14, okay? So go ahead and turn your page 68. No pa, no family yet. Where are they? Robinson Crusoe had come to an end. So I guess they had been going along and they finished the book. Matt had skipped more than half of it, choosing only the pages where there was plenty of action. Now remember, okay, so he skipped half of it because remember, he didn't want Etienne to be bored for one thing, but also, do you remember the other problem with Robinson Crusoe? Is that when Etienne found that Friday was a slave, he was furious. Remember that way back at the beginning of the book? So Matt's been careful about what he has read to him and is just kind of reading the exciting parts, not mentioning anything about slavery or a master, nothing like that. Now he was sorry it had not lasted longer. Etienne also seemed disappointed. Too bad, he commented, copying one of Matt's frequent remarks. "I tell story to brothers. Every night I tell more story. They like it." So Etienne's actually going home and telling his brothers, his Indian brothers, about Robinson Crusoe, and they like listening to that. They like hearing it. Delighted, Matt tried to picture the Indians sitting around the campfire at night listening to Etienne tell the story of Robinson Crusoe. He would give a good deal to hear Etienne's version of it. Now suddenly he had an inspiration. "If they want more stories, I have lots of them," he exclaimed. He took his father's Bible from the shelf. Why hadn't he thought of this before? Why, there was Samson, David and Goliath, Joseph in his coat of many colors. "They're even better than Robinson Crusoe," he promised. It really was true. The ancient Bible stories were filled with adventure, and they were told straight out in simple language that didn't need skipping. He began with the story of Noah, how God warned Noah that a great flood was coming, how Noah built the ark and took inside his family and 2 of every kind of animal, how they all lived in the ark safely while it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, how Noah sent a dove out 3 times, and when it came back the 3rd time with a twig of olive in its beak, Noah knew that the flood was over. Here Matt looked up to see a grin on Etienne's face. Beaver people tell story like that, he said. Very old story. You want me tell? Matt waited curiously. Very long time, Etienne began, scowling as he tried to translate from his own tongue. Before animal was great rain. Water came over all the land. One Indian go to very high hill, climb very high tree. Rain many days. Water come up to feet of Indian, but no more. Gluskabe bring 3 ducks to Indian. One day he let 1 duck go. It fly away and not come back. Other day he let other duck go. It not come back. Then last duck come back with mud in mouth. Indian no water go down. When water all gone, he came down from tree. He make grass, make bird and animal, make man and beaver. Man and beaver make all other Indians. Golly, said Matt, it's almost like the Bible story. Where did the Indians get it? Etienne shrugged. Very old story. Indians take long time to tell. I not know white man's words. Well, you told it fine, but who was this whatever you called him? Gluskabe, mighty hunter, come from north, very strong. He make wind blow, make thunder. He make all animal, make Indian. So who's Gluskabe like? Matt was puzzled. He had heard that the Indians worshipped the Great Spirit. This Gluskabe did not sound like a great spirit. He sounded more like one of the heroes in the old folk tales his mother had told him when he was a child. He decided it would be impolite to ask more. He wondered if the Indians had many stories like that, and how could it be that here in the forest they had learned about the flood? So Gluskabe in the Native American tribe is like God to us. He created the man, he created Indians, Etienne said, created the wind, the thunder, just like God does and did for us. So at Gluskabe, I'm not sure I'm saying that right. That's just my guess. I'm not positive about that. But so Etienne, it's funny that we have those stories that are like one another. Isn't that strange? A little bit different, but basically they're the same thing. They kind of get the same message across, so that's neat. All right, so we finished 13 and 14. When we get together next time, we'll be reading 15. What is your prediction? What is it? Do you have questions? Anything going on in your head that you're curious about? Probably. I mean, you should. If you're being a good reader, really getting into the story, you've probably got all kinds of questions popping up in your head. Yeah, I wonder if this is going to happen or that's going to happen. Just like when you watch TV shows or movies, you do the same thing just instinctively. You think about what might happen. Sometimes, like if you're watching with your family and you shout out what you think is going to happen, they might say, "Be quiet. We want to figure it out for ourselves." So just, you can keep those in your head, but maybe don't spoil it for other people. Okay, we'll get back together tomorrow. Come prepared, teeth brushed, hair brushed. You know, if you put on your school clothes, you don't have to put on school clothes, but clothes instead of your jammies, whatever, whatever. But let's get, teeth brushed and stuff like that. That just kind of makes you feel like, okay, let's go. I'm ready for the day. Okay, because this is the way it is for now, but you're still in school. All right, I miss you all so much. I hope you're being so good. I bet you are. I know it's hard. It gets hard, but you know what? It's really hard for mom and dad too, okay? So be extra good for them. Extra good to brothers and sisters, okay? That's what everybody wants. I want you to do that. I know you can. Not easy, but you can do it. All right, I'll see you guys next time.